Hey guys, it's great to see you today. I hope that you're excited to be joining me. How long? I want you to think about a period in your life, a moment in your life, an achievement that you've had. And I want you to really think about this with some depth. I want you to think about every interaction, every connection, every network, every conversation that you had that made it possible. And I want you to tell me how many years you think it took. So maybe you've just graduated. And I always talk about graduation as being something you've been doing for like 18 years, right? We look at it as you've been to university for like 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. Actually, it's been such a big part of your life. So I want you to think about an achievement. Maybe it's a promotion. And I want you to think of every interaction you had, every connection you had, every person you spoke to, every deal you did, whatever it was, and write down a number of years that it's taken for you to reach that point. So your answer may be 3 years, 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, 12 years, 20 years. What I wanted to talk to you about today is all about overnight success. How many people have ever come up to you and said, "You're so lucky you've got your own company. You're so lucky you work for yourself. It's just amazing that things just work out for you. Oh my God, you've just become successful overnight. Like, how does it feel?" How many people have ever approached you and said things like that? Or, "Oh, you won that award. Yeah, that came around quickly, didn't it? Oh my God, I can't believe you've only opened up your company 6 months ago." How many of you have heard that from friends, family, people, your networks, just people around you, colleagues? How many times have people mistaken that your 4-year, 27-year, 30-year, 25-year, 5-year, 10-year journey has actually been an overnight success? How many of you have ever been mistaken to have lived an overnight success? So we've all heard these statements from people around us, right? We've all heard these statements, but we all know that it's very different. And it's so important that we bust this myth of an overnight success and actually talk about what it actually takes to create this illusion of an overnight success. What does it actually take to do that? Now, it was actually Eddie Cantor who said it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. You can replace that year with the year that you came up with. I also remember a lyric by a British artist called Kano. And he talked about how he said that his manager said to him, this was the quickest deal ever. And his response to his manager was that 19 years was not the quickest deal ever. He was 19 years old when he landed his record deal, but felt he'd been preparing for that day for 19 years. Now, one of the things I found when I'm coaching people, when I'm mentoring people, when I'm guiding people, I find that this obsession with overnight success, this obsession for things to just work, this obsession for things to work on the first time, it's just so strong. It just exists in us. We have this desire, this bursting, oozing want for success, and we almost expect it to happen straight away. We want it to happen at that moment, at that time. How many of you have watched one of these videos where someone turns up on screen and promises you they'll make you a millionaire overnight, or tells you that they make like a ridiculous amount of money monthly and that you can do the same thing just by signing up to their mailing list, right? If that's happened to you, let me know. Put it in the comments section. It's rising because we as people are projecting that we want things overnight. We want things instantly. Because we're projecting that feeling, we have people offering that to us. But I want you to think about this. I want to debunk this myth of shortcuts. I want to debunk this myth. If you're just tuning in right now, I'm basically busting the myths around overnight success and talking about what it actually takes to be an overnight success. What actually practically does it mean? Sharon, is overnight success a real thing? No, it's a massive myth. An overnight success is 20 years. Success is often related to earning wealth rather than seeking happiness. Yeah, so it's so important that at the first stage we redefine and actually evaluate what happiness we actually want, what success means to us. I remember I was talking about these things, the things that I talk about in my videos. It's unbelievable because I wrote some of those things about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago when I was learning, prepping, reading, I was basically reading amazing books. I was meeting amazing people. And I wanted young people to have access to what I was learning. So I basically just started running sessions like this for 30 people, sometimes 10 people, sometimes 0 people, like sometimes no one turned up, and I would just practice to an empty room. I started doing that at university. So I would speak to groups of people, and then those groups of people started to grow. So we had 30 people, 50 people, 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, you know, and then things grew and grew and grew. So it actually started out by me sharing what I was learning with the desire that it would improve other people's lives. And then always recognizing that anything I was saying was not absolute, that nothing I said was set in stone, that I actually had to go deeper in that principle by applying it, living it, testing it, experimenting it. So yeah, you're asking about my beginnings and failures. I remember one of my failures was for 4 weeks running, I was speaking at university, and no one turned up for the first 2 sessions, right? Empty rooms. And I remember just practicing what I was saying. Now that video today, that concept and the notes that I wrote, that video today has 12 million views. But it's phenomenal because at that time, I couldn't even get someone to turn up. And it wasn't because I hadn't practiced. It wasn't because I hadn't prepared. It was just because it requires work. Now, the reason why this is interesting to me, the reason why this is huge for me, and I think is so important for us to talk about, is actually because if we look at the equation for success, if I had to write it down, if I had a whiteboard, I'd write it down. I'm not saying I've thought about this completely, but it's coming to my mind, so I'm going to share it with you. If we look at success, success equals hard work times by a positive attitude, plus courage, plus patience, plus resilience, minus ego, plus great people. Right now, let's just look at all of that. Success, one word, one feeling, whatever it is to you, equals whatever it has meaning, whether it's family, whether it's money, whether it's career, whether it's fame, whether it's happiness, whatever it is to you. It requires hard work times by a positive attitude, plus courage, plus patience, plus resilience, minus ego, plus great people, right? And you could probably change that equation. But if we take a look at that equation for a moment, every situation you're in on that journey is helping you learn one of those qualities. See, success and happiness are more about developing characteristics and qualities than they are about an achievement, because every situation, every experience that you have is teaching you one of those things. So that one was teaching me the principle of minus your ego, right? When no one turns up to hear you speak, I was learning what it means to minus ego. I was also learning patience, because I'd be going back every week hoping for the group to grow, which it naturally did. It was also teaching me resilience. When I was able to practice when there was no one in the room, it meant when the room was full, I was already ready to make it happen, right? So notice that each one of your experiences, and I'd like you to do this right now, I'd like you in the comment section to write an experience and write which trait or quality or characteristic of success you believe it's teaching you. And that's the whole point, that success is the accumulation or the collective focus of all of these characteristics and qualities adding up. I truly believe that we do need to bust this myth of overnight success, because what does a world that believes in overnight success do? It creates challenges, it creates problems. What does it create? It creates stress. A world that believes in overnight success creates stress, because when it doesn't happen, we feel stressed, we feel disappointed, we feel frustrated. So just by busting this myth, just by sharing this video, we're actually busting that idea. We're going to be able to bust stress, right? What does a world that believes in overnight success do? It creates us wanting to cheat, find shortcuts, manipulate people, stab people in the back, exploit people, because we want something now, we want it instantly. It doesn't make us value values, it makes us see them as not valuable at all. So we've got to really think about why it's so important to bust that myth. The other thing I wanted to talk about is why this myth of overnight success exists. One of the first reasons is because you see examples when the market always or almost suddenly becomes ready to accept something that you never gave up on. So you've been talking about something for 10 years and all of a sudden the market's ready to accept that. It feels like an overnight success. The second is there's a difference between early success and overnight success. So people look at Evan Spiegel, founder of Snapchat. People look at Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. And people think, wow, they're billionaires before they're 30, right? That's incredible. Imagine being a billionaire before you're 30. Now that's looking at it from the point of view that success is money. Some other people will say, actually, their success is that they work for themselves at a young age. Some other people would say they're working on what they believe in and what they love. Whatever the definition of success is, these people got success before the age of 30. Extremely early success, but not overnight. They still had to work at it. They had to work nights and days to get to that position. So let's not forget that. So everyone has their own definition of success. John Spring's asking, what does success actually mean? Success means that our happiness is not dependent on anything external. because external things will always up and down, spike and drop. So actual success and actual happiness is when our satisfaction, our drive, our motivation is not based on anything external to ourselves and our mind and our consciousness. So another thing that I really wanted to talk about, and this really revolves around why we have this myth of overnight success, and I'm so glad that you're all sticking around right now and enjoying this conversation. Keep your comments coming through. Jasmine says, how can we stay on task when we are still years away from the version of success? Now that's one of the big things. I wanted to talk to you about a particular individual. His name is George Martin. I don't know how many of you know the name, but George Martin is actually the creator of the Game of Thrones. So George Martin, we don't even know his name, right? He's won 12 Emmys. He's won countless awards. He's sold shows to HBO, etc. Now the amazing thing is that he's been writing for decades. Right? George Martin has been writing for decades, but we only know him for his work, Game of Thrones, because that's what became famous. And that's why overnight success actually exists, because we have things that I call the greatest stories never told. Things feel like an overnight success because we don't talk about the stories that got the people there, the greatest stories never told, right? So Martin, author for decades, not waiting for, HBO. Imagine he said, I want the first thing I write to be on HBO, right? Imagine you said the first thing that you write has to be in Hollywood. The first song that you write has to be at the top of the Billboard charts. The first thing you do, that's the problem, that we have these over-amplified views. Now that goal is not bad, but feeling like that's going to be your first break, that doesn't make any sense. So often when you're working for that, you keep failing, right? It doesn't work because you just can't get through to that person, and you think, oh my God, my idea is never going to be famous. But the funny thing is that you've got all these other ways of writing. Work your way up, right? Start focusing on small stuff. Start testing. Start proving your value. Jasmine, I hope that answers your question. Laura, hi Jay. I tuned in a few minutes ago. A lot of times I try something, and if I don't see an automatic response or positive impact, I lose the drive and motivation. How can I change that? Now, it's okay. People quit all the time, right? Winners quit all the time. They quit at the right stuff. If you're losing drive and motivation and passion for something, it could be right that that's not actually what you care about. You're just doing it because you think it will work. I remember a lot of people, and this is really funny and really strange, and some of you may find this entertaining. I remember for the last few years, a lot of people were telling me to get into politics, and I used to just laugh at this because it's just not my space. It's not a passion that I have. And so if I had ever tried to make it into politics, I potentially could have failed and I would have lost drive. But what I've been working on, what I'm doing right now, I've been working on it for about 10 years, and I've never lost drive and motivation, even when things weren't in flow, even when things weren't working out. Why? Because I was in my element. So it's not bad to lose motivation for stuff. It could be that you're losing motivation for something that you don't care about. So analyze and assess whether the reason for losing motivation is that you don't care, or that you're just getting lazy or complacent. Figure that out first. So I wanted to talk to you about this principle, again busting the myth of overnight success. You can have it all, just not all at the same time. Right? Just think about that for a moment. You can have it all, not all at the same time. It's one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever heard, that I've really tried to meditate on, that I've really tried to think about. You can have it all, just not all at the same time. It can be spread across life. And we have this balanced overnight success view that everything comes, and when it comes, it all comes at the same time. But it's not true, right? And you can't have it all at the same time. So it's important that we accept that we access that understanding and move forward from there, right? Each experience is giving us something new. Let's value their experience we're having. Now, I posted a quote or a picture on Instagram this morning. So I don't know if you follow me on Instagram. If you don't, my Instagram is Shetty J. It's my name backwards, Shetty J on Instagram. Go and find me there. And I posted this photo, and it's of a desk. Now, this is not my room or my house. I found a picture of this great desk, and I put up what I almost see as two frames. And I recommend you almost have these two frames in your mind, and if you need to have them visually. And on one frame, I put easy work, and on one frame, I put hard work, right? And the easy work says compare, complain, criticize, judge, and justify, right? These things are easy. Anyone can complain, it doesn't take a genius. Anyone can compare, you don't need to be smart. Anyone can be criticized, you don't need to be a professional critic. Anyone can judge, you don't need to be, a courtroom judge. And anyone can justify, you don't need to be a lawyer. Hard work is when you have to collaborate, motivate, inspire yourself as well, serve, make a change yourself. These things are hard work. So whenever you see yourselves doing easy work, remember that easy work only leads to easy results. And hard work leads to hard results. It's just the way it is. You don't, if we look at something very physical, you don't go to the gym and do easy lifts and get the results you want. You get that by doing the hard work and the hard results. So realize that your equation, the results you're only getting is the amount of work you're putting in, and that work is defined by two things: intention and action. There are two ways: intention and action. It's not one or the other. So sometimes you focus, and I want you to reflect on yourself. Sometimes we focus so heavily on action. You're trying loads of different actions, but you haven't worked on your intention. And sometimes you're just working on your intention in your mind and your head, and it's all just existing in your head, but nothing's actually happening. And therefore, we've got to realize that intention and action go hand in hand. Andy, what can we do every morning to keep our eyes on the goal? Know what you're going to do that day before you wake up. If you wake up and try to figure it out, you'll just waste time. Know what you're doing the night before. Know what you're doing a week in advance. That's one of my best pieces of advice. A lot of people say it, not enough people do it, right? The second thing is wake up to an activity that reminds you of your goal, a meditation, a practice, whatever it is for you, that actually gears you up for that thing, that focuses you in on that thing. Another thing that you can do in the morning, right, every morning to keep your eyes on the goal, is wake up to something visual that reminds you of it. Yesterday we had Rob Greenfield, who is talking about recycling, right? And he's walking around in his trash suit. He's doing it because we're visual learners. If you're waking up in the morning and the first thing you see is the time on your alarm clock, and the time is something you don't like, that's not the best visual to wake up to. And the problem today is we wake up to the visual of notifications, messages, emails, right? How many of you wake up to the feeling of notifications, emails, and just feeling overwhelmed by the amount of Snapchats that you have, the Instagram messages that you have, the tweets that you have? It's literally like letting 100 of your friends, or even 100 people that you don't know, if you're talking about Tinder or Twitter, turn up in your bedroom the first thing you do when you wake up. So we're actually waking up to being surrounded by messages, a plethora of messages that may not be right for our growth. Curate, select your messages. Nick, what if you can't see financial success, stability with your passion? You have to decide, Nick, of course, in that individual situation, whether, first of all, just because you can't see it, it's not possible. Because trust me, there's countless people who've made it possible. Now, if you're convinced that it's not possible, you have to decide whether you're happy letting it be your passion or whether you want to make it your full time. Remember, you can live a very fulfilling life, even living your passion in a job that you don't like and doing your passion on top of it, right? Remember, there's multiple ways of factoring it. It's not as black and white. Kashfia, what do you recommend doing at the end of our day to help us reflect and keep us motivated the next day? I'd look at that list that I'd created, not the to-do list, but a list that would make me feel satisfied and fulfilled, and see what I'd done. I'd look at what I'd done for other people that day, and I'd look at how much closer I'm getting to things and noticing the things that are working. Like, it's so important to notice what's working, to observe what's working, and observe what needs changing. That's what you need to do. Don't focus on what you need to do more of, focus on what you need to do less of. Don't say, I need to stop doing this and start doing this. I need to start doing this and stop doing this. It's too clinical, right? It's too separate. Say, I need to do more of this and less of this. Keep making incremental changes rather than looking for massive changes, because that won't help you learn and grow. So part of busting the myth of overnight success is recognizing that there is no formula, right? There is no covering for what that success looks like. And we get that when we look at the lives of people who've achieved certain things. Now, you look at James Dyson. How many of you use a Dyson vacuum cleaner? I don't know, maybe you do. But he's huge. He's worth $5 billion now. And I'm not equating money to success. I'm just trying to give you a bit of background on who he is. The amazing thing about it is he had 5,127 failed prototypes, right? 5,127 failed prototypes in 15 years of trying until it happened, right? Until it happened. That's what it took. It's incredible. Imagine having prototypes. How many of us even have 5,127 ideas, right? 5,127 failed prototypes. I talked about George Martin from Game of Thrones already. Bill Gates, his first company didn't make data, didn't make money, right? Didn't even work, right? The demo didn't even work. 16 years he's been at the top of his game. Now, Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school. These are real stories of real people, but we don't see them. They're the greatest story never told. Rosemary, how do you find a balance? I've got a full-time job and part-time school, and I'm also a full-time mum. Amazing, Rosemary. Massive congratulations. Sounds like a brilliantly fulfilling life. Now, how do you find the balance? It depends what you define by balance. What do you mean by balance? Balance is actually prioritizing what matters. That's actually what balance is. So as long as you're spending time on the things that matter to you and on the responsibilities you've accepted, the key is meaning. See, we can exert ourselves far beyond our wildest capabilities with meaning. I put on Rob Greenfield's suit yesterday. I've done fast before. I've taught meditation for many days without sleeping and eating. I've worked on projects for days and nights without sleeping and eating. Why is that possible? It's because you see meaning in your work, right? When you see meaning in your work, you don't feel stress, you feel satisfaction, even when you're pushing and exerting yourself. So yesterday when I put on Rob's suit, it was so heavy that I'm convinced the only way he got through it was mental strength built on meaning. See, mental strength built on just motivation and willpower doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't make you happy. It's not going to really connect with you. You're not going to look at that and go, oh yeah, I'm satisfied. That works for me, right? Meaning is what's going to empower you. Mental strength based on motivation will not last long. Mental strength based on meaning will drive you to do incredible things, especially when that meaning is making a difference in the life of other people, serving other people, changing other people's lives, trying to be an influence in other people's lives positively. Those things will be massive. Pat, clarifying, thank you so much. My 9 to 5 at Boeing is a good job. People wish they could have the opportunities I have, but it's not fulfilling to me, which is how I discovered you. I know in a couple of years, I wish I would have followed my own path. How do I do that now? Start by doing it now, Pat, on top of what you're doing. And I know you may say that sounds crazy, but it's a 9 to 5, so you've still got 5 to 10, right? Especially if you want to get a good night's sleep. You've still got 5 to 10, or you've got 6 to 10. You've got 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours that evening to start working on your passion. That's the best place to start. You don't have to make any drastic changes. The more effort you put into it, the more love the more meaning you have, the more mental strength you'll gain, the more motivation that will recur in itself. That's the way to do it. Tony, what do you think about a vision board, and do you have one or created one? Yes, I believe in vision boards, Tony. I actually did a session on a vision board maybe a couple of months ago. I definitely recommend doing one, but I recommend tweaking it every day. See, the challenge with vision boards is that we often don't tweak them, we don't change them, we just keep to them as they are. J-Raj, is it good to live life a day at a time instead of seeing the future? I think you have to do both. You know, we have to do both. We have to know where we're going. One of the big reasons for success is focus. There was this company and this CEO, he actually turned down working with oil companies because he thought at one point in the future there's going to be an oil crisis. Now, that could have actually led him to make less money at the time, but better reputation in the future. It depends on what you value, and that's why meaning is so significant, right? Meaning is so significant because to some people that's a loss. It's like, well, if you can make more money, then why does it matter? And some people say, well, no, it matters, and that's why money doesn't matter, right? It's not about, it's about finding your meaning and working towards that. Find your meaning, right? Find what matters to you, because that will help you wire and create that as a reference point. Another huge deliverance for success was energy and physical stamina, right? Successful people are working 12-hour days. They're working crazy amount of times. The key to that success was energy and physical stamina. Taking care of your health is important to deliver that overnight success, right? Sensitivity to others, people who want to help others, people who want to make a difference in the life of others, again, in the top 6 of success-making principles. 4th, flexibility. People who are adaptable, flexible, realizing that there's different methods to achieve their goal. It may not be that one way, right? Tolerating conflict. This is one that I find a lot of people lose out on. A lot of people miss out on success because they can't tolerate conflict, because conflict shifts their move away. They feel unaligned from their meaning because they can't tolerate it. It's so important to be able to tolerate conflict. And finally, submerging our ego. There'll be times where you just got to put your ego aside. You're not going to be the top person, and it's absolutely fine. You just let it go and let it happen. These are things that we all have to do, right? One of the main things I like to talk about overnight success is don't wait to be spotted. Right, we have this feeling that people should value our skills, people should see our skills, people should find us, we should be found. But you've got to put yourself out there. Do not wait to be spotted, right? Do not wait to be spotted. It's not going to happen unless, people who get spotted are on talent channels. They're trying to get spotted. They're doing something. Your talent's not just going to be found. You have to prove your worth. You've got to stay organized. Daily options, weekly activity. So don't be seduced by overnight success, right? It will tease you and then let you down. Don't be seduced by overnight success. Anywhere where it's promised, anywhere where you think that you're achieving it, don't be seduced by it. And you'll meet 100 people before you meet the one that will actually help you, before you meet the 10 that will actually help you. And gratitude to those individuals is a huge, huge part of it. Ashish, how can we be sure that a particular step will depart for success? You don't, right? Just accept that first of all, that you don't know that any step. I've taken steps that I thought were going to make me successful that haven't, and I've taken steps that I thought would never work and have made me really successful, right? It's just not about that, right? It's not about that step. It's about you trying lots of steps out, right? You've got to try. You've got to keep experimenting. And that's why don't make those steps big. Make those steps small and try stuff out to see if it works for you guys. Studies, dream profession, or dad's business. I love that. I love how honest and open you are. It's, I'm guessing studies, dream profession, or dad's business. It sounds exactly like that. Studies sounds like reliable. Dream profession sounds like a dream right now. And dad's business sounds like a reality. So you've got to decide which one you want. It's just looking at that and making a plan. And that's what I mean by that desire to want to be on HBO on the first day. I want to be on national television on the first day. That scares us from our dream, and it moves us further away from our dreams, because often we can't do that straight away, right? It's not possible. So don't let your dream remain a dream. Turn it into a plan. Turn it into goals. Helena, how do you stay motivated when you've been rejected? Do you know what I do? I'll just be honest with you. I just read and reflect on successful people and how many times they've been rejected. That's what gets me through, right? That's personally what motivates me. I look at Dyson and I think 5,127 failed attempts. I look at Sylvester Stallone and 100 producers rejecting him. I look at Thomas Edison and 10,000 failed options. I look at the Beatles being turned down by countless people, whatever it is. That's what motivates me. Looking at the fact that no one who's made it has done it without rejection, right? No one who's made it to what I aspire for has done it without rejection. So it's so, so important. That is what motivates me. I hope that answers your question. So how does one differentiate between ego and believing in what you stand for? How do I know the difference? Beautiful question. Thank you so much for answering it. When you're fighting for your ego, you're fighting to defeat or put the other person down. When you're fighting for what you believe in, you're thinking about pushing what you believe in up, right? It's less critical, it's less judgmental, and it's not about making people feel worse or feeling like you beat them. It's about talking about why the evidence shows your idea or your vision has greater significance, has greater ideas, right? That's what we need to be thinking about. That's what you need to focus on. Surround yourself by people as well. And I was with a group of people for dinner on Sunday, and they were all talking to me about how this year was a transformative year for them. And they actually found that they had to move away from people that they've spent a lot of time with to find people that they found more like-minded. And that's challenging. That's hard work, right? That goes in that hard work category. It's easy work to hang around with people you've always hung around with. It's hard work to make switches, to transform, to make a change. But that's what's needed, and that's why I keep coming back to it. If you have meaning in what you want to do, you'll have the mental strength to motivate yourself to make any change. If you're just using motivational stuff to motivate yourself, it's probably because you haven't got any meaning in your life, right? We only need motivation when we don't have meaning. That's actually what it is. If something means something to you, you'll do it anyway. You'll make it happen. You'll move mountains to make things happen when you have meaning. It's just going to happen. But if you don't have meaning, you're going to look for motivation. You're going to say, how do I stay motivated? How do I get motivation? Motivation comes from meaning. Everything comes from meaning. Guys, it's been great talking to you today. I hope you've enjoyed today's session and discussion, which has turned into talking from overnight success. I've kind of flowed into the spirit of talking about finding my meaning. I really hope that you're going to share today, because I was honestly just sharing very openly and honestly ideas that were just flowing through. I've shared some thoughts with you today that I want to leave you with. The first thing I want you to remember is Eddie Cantor said, it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. Right? We need to bust that myth. right? We need to bust that myth. You can have it all, just not all at the same time. Remember that success equals hard work times a positive attitude, plus courage, plus patience, plus resilience, minus ego. Remember, if someone's promising you quick success, easy success, don't go for it, right? Any opportunity says that you don't need courage, you don't need humility, you don't need patience. Well, I don't know what you're going to get from that. Surround yourself by where you want to be. Remember James Dyson, George Martin, Game of Thrones. Remember Bill Gates' story, Steven Spielberg. Remember all of these individuals. Remember that every challenge you go through is an opportunity to develop a characteristic. It's about proving your worth, right? Don't wait to be spotted. Stay organized. Don't be seduced by overnight success. And remember, it's about finding your meaning, because that will give you mental strength to motivate yourself to make a difference. Take care. Have a great day. See you soon.